Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Is That Brandon Sharing Thoughts podcast. So in today's podcast episode, I thought I would just quickly go over a evening that I had with a couple of friends a couple of weeks ago for a kind of barbecue and games night in the sun. Mostly in the sun, and then it started to get dark. But yeah, without further ado, I'm just going to quickly give you a talk about it. So this actually happened towards the end of May. So this is the 24th of May, I believe. So it was actually quite a few weeks ago from when this podcast is actually going live. But yeah, so one of the people I've become closest with is obviously Rachel. You know, we go to lots of events together, and I am hoping I can get her onto a podcast at some point as well. You know, I'd love to just sit down and have a really, really long chat with her just about anything and everything, because that's kind of how we first met. We first met kind of through a friend. That friend's kind of now become a bit distant, and yeah, I think we have quite a lot in common. And I think just generally, the people that I've started to meet in just all these different ways, you know, in real life, online, through work, through content, through Vinted, you know, I've met so many different types of people. I think I'd just love to get to know and get to terms with more people and, you know, learning more about people. Because I think as much as it's great doing content by myself, because I know what I want to post, I know when I want to post it, and I don't have to be as much content spammy wise like I used to be. I think it's also nice to kind of hear from other people, either, you know, even just how they think of me, how we became friends, you know, the story of becoming friends with someone, which obviously I have kind of now spoken about on a previous podcast. But yeah, it's just nice to kind of get people's opinions and stories and, you know, thoughts about different things. So that's going to be one for the future. Rachel, probably not listening to this, but I'll I'll get you on a podcast within the next year, so watch this space. But yeah, this was a games night with Rachel, with Holly, and with Gareth, nicknamed Gaz. So yeah, Holly and Gaz are, you know, our friends that they've recently been together a couple of, I think it's almost like a year potentially now. And yeah, not really sure how they met. That's not really my story to tell. But yeah, they met and have thankfully been going really, really strong. You know, as every couple does, and as every situation does, people are going to have disagreements, arguments, they'll fall out, you know, they'll not want to see each other for a little bit, and then they'll go, oh, actually, you know what, that's just so pathetic, like, we're actually okay, like, what are we arguing about? So, thankfully, they're back together. You know, they had probably a very small little break, and then they realised, actually, we are right for each other. So, yeah, they invited us round for a games night and a barbecue kind of thing at his mum's house. So we drove up, it wasn't too far, and yeah, it was quite nice because there was a secluded area where we could obviously park without you know, the car potentially being stolen or damaged or lost or anything like that. So yeah, that was nice to kind of have that ready for us. But yeah, like I said, it was a really, really nice house, really, really nice day. I think it was one of the hottest summer days towards the end of May as well. So it was just nice to kind of be out of town, because, you know, I don't really like being in town too much. I don't really like being just staying local, you know. That's why I like travelling to London. That's why I like travelling to Bristol or Brighton or somewhere that's, you know, a bit further out there, just because it's like home. I want as a kind of private space, a kind of, I'm just here to live, I'm just here to eat, I'm just here to sleep, and, you know, stuff like that. But going to network or going to shows or meeting new people, that's what I kind of want to do out of town, if that makes sense, not kind of merge the two together. But yeah, anyway, we went into this lovely, lovely house, you know, very big living room, photos and animals and stuff like that everywhere, like not actual like animals, like photos of the animals and stuff, and babies, and yeah, there was like a really, really nice garden with like a nice like pond area and a little waterfall bit. All sorts of ornaments and things, lots of elephants, lots of, you know, the safety things, or those, you know, those, the eyes, not the eyes of Horus, but the protective eyes. There's lots of like protective looking things in that garden and in that house as well. The bathroom is beautiful. You know, the bathroom you could see down into the garden, and you had a little cupboard in the bathroom as well, which is really interesting. Obviously, I wasn't going to go in there, but it was just, it's a very interesting concept to have like a cabinet or a unit in the bathroom, but it was basically like having a wardrobe in there, and it was beautiful. And then, like I said, yeah, it was very warm. You know, I had a matching rainbow top and rainbow shorts, which I decided to just get out because I had a pair of shorts on underneath, my normal shorts, but they were just, quite warm. So I decided to remove those, and I had my other backup shorts underneath. But yeah, I mean, the whole event was really, really nice. We kind of got there at 3, 4 in the afternoon, just sat, had a bit of a chat, listened to music. And then obviously once it got a little bit cooler, a little bit colder, I came in, had some food, played some games, and then just basically spent the evening playing games and having a laugh and things like that. I think one of the things that was stressing me out a lot was just the kind of the Bluetooth connection. So we'd obviously connect our phones to the music to play music, and it was almost like on one side of the table the Wi-Fi was beautiful, it was perfect, it was there, everything was great. But then as soon as you literally move around the other side of the table, so kind of closest to the pond and the actual garden space, you couldn't use the Wi-Fi. It was struggling to connect. When you were trying to change the song, the connection just did not work, and it just wasn't loading the songs. So you're kind of sitting there either with adverts or just sitting there full stop and, unable to do anything really. So yeah, it was a really, really nice event. Like I said, I think with Holly and Gaz, we see them not regularly, but we see them as and when, they have free time that correlates with mine and Rachel's free time. It's usually at a weekend, because I have been invited to things during the week, but due to work commitments, I have to put that first, and other creative projects and seeing family and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't really do anything during the week other than work. Because I work with a lot of people, I feel like when it comes to a weekend, I just want to be on my own. I just want to have my own space. I want to be by myself, collate my thoughts, get things done, do the washing, do the cleaning, do, selling stuff online, or just going for a walk, having something to eat, rather than having to continue making more social plans throughout the weekend. And I think some people find that difficult to understand. Sometimes people will spam and spam and spam and spam with messages, and it's like, I get it. You want to see me. And obviously I want to see you as well, because I'm a social person. I do like being around people, but at the same time, no means no. If I don't respond, that's usually a no. And if I'm saying I'll get back to you, that's most likely going to be a no as well. I just don't want to say no straight away, because I don't want to kind of let people down. But then you shouldn't have to worry about what is and isn't going to let people down. If you want to go somewhere, you will, and if you don't, you don't. You shouldn't have to feel any certain way, or feeling bad to say no to someone, or saying yes to one person and saying no to someone else, or going to an event that someone's not invited to, or that other people are going to an event that you're not invited to. I think that's just life. You're not going to be best friends with everyone. You're not going to be invited to every single event, and you're not going to be wanted at every single event. So when you kind of have your little groups of people doing their own things, like little games night, little dinners, for my birthday this year, really, really good. I'm not really sure, I can't remember who came up first. I think Becky came up first. So she was up on the Thursday. We spent the whole of Thursday together, I was showing her town and going for food and snacks and the rest of it, playing on the Wii, doing social media, all of that. And then Friday night was like a dinner. So I had like a dinner with friends, and then obviously Saturday. No, this is the other way around. So yeah, I mean, even for my birthday week, it was quite interesting. So I think Wednesday I had a couple of friends down. Thursday I had a dinner with some of the friends, and then obviously I had Becky from town as well. And then Friday was a games night, and I think that's the night that Ben came up. So my Ben, he came up for games night, which was supposed to only be 3 or 4 of us, and I ended up inviting the whole of town. So we ended up having about 14 people in my flat, but it was still fun. And then obviously the Saturday, Millie, Ben, they've just moved into their little place. They invited me and Rachel over to kind of do like a belated birthday thing for me in their new place. So that was quite nice as well. So kind of did a little mix of things, but I guess also at the same time, I don't really, it's not that I don't enjoy celebrating my birthday, it's just I don't feel like I have to every single year go crazy. Sometimes it's just nice to just have a dinner or a games night, or just something a bit more subtle than, oh, let's all go and get drunk, because I don't drink anymore either. So yeah, basically, Gaz and Holly were invited to a couple of my birthday things then, and yeah, like I said, like they're quite good at arranging things. I think sometimes we're not really sure about timings, not really sure, what sort of time do you guys want us at a particular place? Do you want us there early? Do you want us there later? Do you want to just text us when you're on the way, or we'll meet you somewhere in town? I think that's the thing with just people in general, just making plans. You want to make plans, you want to see people, but you don't want to kind of spend more time making a plan than actually seeing people. You don't want to spend 3 hours trying to work out what time should we meet, where are we going. It should almost just be like, meet at this place at 3 o'clock, we'll decide where we're going from there. So at least you know where you're going, you're meeting your people, and you can actually in real time discuss what you want to do. So yeah, that was kind of the aim of this podcast, to talk about that. And it was a nice social event that we went to with Holly and Gaz. But I just think generally, friendships are constantly changing, and I know I kind of jump from topic to topic, but I guess that's what podcasts could really be all about. So yeah, I mean, for me, I've said it many a times, I've met so many people, I've been to so many different projects and events, and parades for different things, and openings for things, and panels for things. I've been on panels, I've been in videos, I've been on TV a few times, so I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I haven't done everything, I haven't completed everything that I want to complete, but I've done, for where I am at my age and what I had to deal with growing up as a child and a teenager, I've done quite a lot of good stuff, but there's always that I want to do more. And I have obviously spoken to family, or there's friends and stuff that are like, oh, this is really, really good, and you should be proud of yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I am proud. I'm constantly looking for the next thing, to jump onto. And I guess some people think that's a good thing. They're constantly seeing me want to continue doing more stuff and new stuff. But then you get some people that are just like, well, hang on, can't you just appreciate what you've done and congratulate yourself on where you've got for now and just leave it at that? I'm not one of those people. If I've done well and if I've got somewhere good, I want to keep going until I just can't go anymore well, if that makes sense. I don't like just settling. If I do a project and I get a particular grade, okay, I may not be able to go back and change it and get the grade up, but I can at least ask why. I can ask why I didn't get the higher grade. Or I can say, right, on my next project, what can I do to make sure I get that higher grade? What is it I lacked out on this one in particular? Or was there things I didn't do or things I did wrong that I can change going forward? So I think for me, that's a really interesting part of life as well. Just reflecting on, this is how I've done it this time round. If I'm doing it again, how can I do it differently? How can I do it better? So yeah, and I guess in terms of friendships, kind of going back to that whole networking and things like that, I think for me, I'm just not taking anything for granted. I don't really care who I follow on social media. I don't really care who follows me. I'm not really bothered who I'm connected with on, Facebook or LinkedIn or the rest of it. My TikTok account has completely been deleted now. Even that for me was a great networking opportunity. But at the same time, it was a very toxic world. So yeah, things like Facebook for me is more just checking out memes, watching comedy show clips and highlights. That could be something in the future that I decide that I want to do. Either one, become a comedian, go into comedy, try and be funny. It's not necessarily something that I've ever thought about doing, but maybe there is a way in there. Or use my comedy within my content, or actually just go to a comedy show and just enjoy the comedy. Because you get a lot of this whole audience participation, and they're asking you questions, they're asking you about your life. And I've seen so many funny comedians, most of them American actually. Every so often I'll get a Jimmy Carr video or a Michael McIntyre video, or Catherine Ryan, the lady with the high pitched voice. Can't remember what her name is, but she's hilarious. And yeah, most of the time it is just Americans. It's Michael Blaustein, it's the other lady, but like I said, it's a lot of different people, but majority are American. And you just kind of see their audience participation, how they ask questions, how they jump on taking the mick out of people, and asking interesting questions and comparing things, and just the way they say things. Like, for example, Michael Blaustein, really, really funny guy, really hilarious. He's a great looking guy as well. That's not really the point of why I'm watching him. I just think he's so funny. If he's talking to a girl and she's like, oh, my name's Sarah, he'll just go, hi, I'm Sarah. He'll just take the mick out of the voice, and it will just start getting everyone laughing. But he does it in a way that it's not rude, it's actually funny. And I think that's the interesting thing when it comes to comedy and when it comes to humour and being funny. You have to know where the line is, and you have to know what's funny. What can trigger people in terms of it's going to make them laugh, it's going to make them upset, it's going to make them feel a certain way, or laugh maybe with tears. You never know, but you've just got to realise, and you've got to understand as a comedian what's going to offend someone and what's just going to make them laugh, or what's just going to make them cackle like a witch, but not offend them. So yeah, as much as I like comedy, there are some times where I'm like, oof, that was a bit close, or oof, that was a bit strong, or maybe he shouldn't have said that. But it's funny because it is, you do get, as long as you get those people laughing, then they're not laughing in fear, they're laughing because they're either in pain, they're offended that badly, they actually find it funny, or they just generally think, oh my goodness, that's quite funny. So yeah, that's kind of what I have for Facebook. And then yeah, I guess for LinkedIn, it's more just kind of not stalking old people from the past, but kind of seeing where people are. Every so often I'll reach out to someone, I'll go, oh, haven't thought about this person for a while. So I'll drop them a message, drop them a text or an emoji and say, hey, haven't spoken to you in a while, how's life? I did that for one of the guys I knew when I was in Nottingham when I was studying. I didn't have his number, I didn't have him on social media, I had no idea how to really spell his name, but I knew that he'd be on LinkedIn. So I dropped him a LinkedIn message and said, hey, haven't spoken to you in a while, drop me a message on WhatsApp, blah, blah, blah. He messaged me minutes later, and then we got into a discussion. And now we're talking about jobs and the future and, life, career and his marriage and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's one of those things you just, every so often, like that's the interesting thing with people. You'll meet so many people and you'll get involved in so many opportunities, or you'll go to so many premieres or shows or events or things like that. And as many of the people there that you meet, you're surely going to forget. But in the future, either you'll have a light bulb moment where you'll go, oh, haven't spoken to Joe in a while, or oh, haven't spoken to Steve in a while, or they'll have that about you, and you'll get a random message from someone from the past. I used to call it a blast from the past, and that would reignite a friendship or reignite a situationship with someone that you can then continue life with. But I think the interesting thing with me as well is, and actually with anyone, everyone that's kind of going through friendships or going through changes with work colleagues or changes with jobs or just changes full stop with themselves, with life, with family, any experience that you have with someone as a one-on-one experience will only be experienced as that one-on-one unique experience. There's events I've been to with individual people where they've laughed so hard that, snot has come out of their nose. Or I've been to events in London where I've done a little photo shoot with someone, and then someone weird or someone stupid or someone crazy has gone past and said something or done something, but again, only me and that person are going to know. There's a photo shoot I did when I was in Nottingham with this photographer, and we're taking photos, and I think I was standing in like a door and they were standing in like a tree or something, and I just remember this random man just came about and was like, oh, I'm sure there's better places you can have your photos taken. And I was like, yeah, but it's just part of the occasion. It's just part of the look we're going for with the photos. So kind of, he wasn't dangerous. He wasn't a threat at all. It was more of just, he was saying his piece and we didn't really understand or care really. But yeah, I just, play it with kindness. Just say, look, I completely appreciate that, but this is, it's public space. We can do what we want. And it fits the theme that we're going for. One of my other colleagues, when I used to work at my previous company, I think there was one night where I don't know if we were working late or if I was in town and I went round to visit him or whatever. But I think we were both working from his, because I must have been in town for whatever reason, because I had my laptop on me, so I must have either finished work the previous day and then been at his the following morning to then just get on with work. And yeah, I remember we were both on the phone and we both went outside. I think he went out for a cigarette or whatever, and he's closed the door behind him, but neither of us checked as to whether he had his phone, his keys, his anything. So he had no phone, he had no keys, so we couldn't get into the flat, couldn't text or call anyone. I think I only had my phone, so obviously I was texting the manager and saying, look, just to let you know, probably not going to be online at the moment because he's locked us out by accident. It was completely an accident, but he had to wait for one of his flatmates to come back, and I think she was only 10 minutes down the road, so she obviously she had to come back, and she was just laughing basically when she came back in, letting us in. And then we ended up having a meeting with the manager, and to be fair, that day we still managed to smash out all the phone calls we needed to do. I think it was because we were recruiting, we had a set amount of people we needed to call. It was a very interesting job, and it was a very interesting situation and very interesting system. We had all these applications that came through, we had to click one by one, we had all the details, we could assign them to ourselves, and you just have this conversation with people online. And if they sounded like they're good for the job, you'd push them through to the next stage. They'd complete their documents and they'd get hired, basically. And if they weren't good, didn't understand English, didn't understand the job they were applying for, you kind of reject them then and there. So yeah, even with that kind of hour and a half, 2 hours of unable to access our computers or laptops or phones, other than my phone, which was a personal phone, so I didn't have any work-related stuff on there, we still managed to get through our numbers and perform for the rest of that day, which again was just interesting within itself. So yeah, that's kind of LinkedIn and what I do with LinkedIn. I'm not constantly spamming people or messaging all sorts of people. It's just every so often, if I go, oh, haven't spoken to this person in a while, just dropping them a message, seeing how they are. You get the occasional random happy birthday from people. Every other year you'll just get some random person that wishes you happy birthday, who I don't really know who they are and why I've connected with them, but I just go, thank you, and I hope you're doing well on my birthday. And then you've obviously got Instagram, you've got YouTube. They're the two main ones that I use for content. And again, it's not having to post everything all the time everywhere, but for both Instagram and YouTube you can do shorts as well. So on Instagram they call them reels, but you can either do short form content or you can just do long form content, or with Instagram you can also do photos. So I guess for me, depending on the event, depending on where I go, depending on whether it's a proper photo shoot or just a day out with friends, or I'm just catching up with some friends, I will do 1, 2 or all 3 of the above in terms of the content. So yeah, if it's just a night out, probably get a few group photos or a few selfies, or have a few photos taken, get a few little videos to do like a behind the scenes. If it's like a music event, I'll try and film as many of the performances as I can. And then if I'm just, seeing friends in town or the pub or the bar or whatever, I'll probably just get a couple of photos, keep those to myself, maybe share them to my story, and then kind of be done with that, really. So yeah, I think for me it is just as important to meet people online as it is in real life, because if you don't network and if you don't create these new friendships and these new situations with going to different events or going to new places, new shows, new events, new towns and new cities, exploring things that you wouldn't explore if you didn't meet new people, because you're just surrounding yourself with the same people, then you're not going to progress in life and you're not going to have a fulfilling life. You're just going to be constantly thinking, why are all these people having fun and why am I not? Why are all these people seeing different places in the world and why am I looking at the same 4 brick walls? So I guess that's the interesting and important thing with friends and friendships as well. For me, it's not necessarily looking back. It's looking back on the things I've done, the people I've met, the opportunities I've had, but going forwards. And, you never know. There could be an opportunity I get involved in, or there could be a job I apply for, or a work experience opportunity I'm part of, where a blast from the past may also be in that job. They may be working on that show that I apply for. They may be one of the crew in, an office that I have to do a project for, or they might be a hiring manager in a creative company that I apply as an operations person for later down the line. So you never know who's going to be where. So I think every single connection, every single friendship you have, just keep it on good terms. Always think about, it could be nice to reach out to that person because you just generally miss them as a person, or you can bring something to their life, or they can bring something to yours. And I think me and social media have a bit more of a love for each other now, because I think it was very toxic before. But like I said, I'm not bothered who I follow, and I'm not bothered who follows me. It's kind of not real until you reach those DMs and you actually make those physical plans. For me, it's just like a massive showcase of people that could be, or a place of just people you've connected with because you have kind of some sort of similarity or some sort of similar interest or something like that. I follow 4,500 people on Instagram now. I don't know, and I will not ever meet 4,000 people in my life, but some of them are music related, some of them are models, some of them are, TV show hosts and actors and actresses and comedians. I have had some messages from people, famous people, influencers, people in the industry, family, but at the end of the day, it's just a collation of it's everyone in the same place. So rather than having 4,000 phone numbers, which I don't need and I'm not going to have, just having 4,000 connections of some sort of creativity in the same place. I'm constantly finding new people to follow, models, men, fitness people, therapists, massage people, musicians, photographers, videographers, models, I think just anything where I've got something in similarity with someone, some sort of interest or some sort of connection or some sort of understanding of something, they're the people that I'm connecting with, because yeah, like I said, in the future either they can help me, I can help them, or it's just just another person on my feed I can get inspiration from to create my own content. So yeah, very interesting podcast episode this. I think, like I said, I'm one of those individuals, I just waffle, and if you give me a topic, I'll probably talk about it, and I'll probably talk about 7 other topics in the same podcast. But that was kind of a podcast about a social gathering, a barbecue, a games night, and then I guess the importance and the understanding of friendships and how friendships work and how people work, really. And like I said, as kind of like a last note, not thinking about the past and not worrying about what you've done, who you've met, or what's happened, but thinking, right, well, I haven't spoken to that person from the past, maybe I should reach out to them. Or if in the future you apply for an opportunity, or you go for a job, or you apply for a TV show, or you apply for a creative role, you may have one of those people from those past experiences as something in your new and, up-to-date part of life. So I think that's the thing. Never think that just because that friendship's over, or just because you've not heard from that person, that's it. It's never going to come back, because they'll probably still have your number, they'll have your contact, they'll reach you if they want to reach you, or somehow you'll end up being brought back together on a project, or at some way, or at some part or point in your life. So yeah, that's kind of how I envision things. I'm constantly wanting to move forward, bringing people with me, letting people go that need to be let go of, but always seeing if I can bring people from the past into the future, or see if I end up bumping into them at some point later in life. So yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And until my next podcast, don't forget, drop me any messages, comments, thoughts, suggestions on other topics you'd like me to do. And until then, thank you for listening, and goodbye.